Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. On the warning map here, we only have one advisory left in the mid-Tanana Valley there in the greater Fairbanks area, actually for mostly North Pole. That's could end at any time. Was still out when I last looked at 5 o'clock. So it's just for another few hours maybe, or it could be already out, but still some high water there from North Pole and in the Fairbanks area on the Chena River. And for the these river gauges, fire danger here, pretty high all through the southwest. Were some areas, pretty good areas of rain, but mostly down over the Kilbrook Mountains, Bristol Bay areas. Rain into the Kuskokwim Valley, about 6/10 of an inch falling in McGrath in the last 24 hours. So this diminishing in area there, especially over the southwest part of the state. And of course in the central Tanana Valley, Fairbanks picking up 1.13 inches of rain in the last 24 hours there. So low fire dangers up into there, but to the north and to the east and then back to the west, much higher with the drier and hotter conditions. On the satellite, you can see the clear skies up here to the north, at least to start with today, and back up over the Noatak Valley. Also clouds spreading up into the Norton Sound areas and catching the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula there, and then cloud cover covering all of the Bering Sea. A little bit lower tops out here to the west, and weather system here coming eastward. Rolling this again, you can see bringing some clouds and rain with it, about ready to move in, or has moved into the eastern Aleutians there, and then clouds up along the Alaska Peninsula. This area moving back to the west out into the Bering Sea, and then low pressure here over the Gulf of Alaska, sending a couple of bands of moisture over the last day or so into the southern southeast coast, with rain pulling northward and then back to the west, rain into Yakutat and moisture into the Kenai Peninsula in areas. And then thunderstorms developing this afternoon along that band that has moved into the central interior. And cluster of thunderstorms also to the southeast of McGrath this afternoon, otherwise pretty isolated, at least up until about 4 p.m. along the Alaska Range and on over into the Northway area and to the north, a little bit of activity there, but nothing too widespread, just a big low here over the Gulf of Alaska. More moisture moving up to the northeast. Will be spreading occasional rain into the panhandler showers here over the next day and a half, or possibly right through Thursday. And again, variable clouds, periods of light rain, showers coming across just about all of southern Alaska. On the chart today, the rain over the southeast coast there, main low aloft here in the Gulf of Alaska, at the surface one back in this area. And then some pretty widespread areas of showers and rain here over the southwest interior areas. That's going to continue here for the next couple of days with the thunderstorms up along this boundary here into the interior. And then some pretty brisk winds, but keeping it nice up there along the northwest coast. And mild temperatures as well. And a little on the brisk side there, the Arctic coast, that actually keeping the fog and low clouds in, especially over the central and eastern Arctic coast there, where the flow is more onshore, but offshore flow and better conditions off to the west. And again, just a lot of low clouds, areas of fog over the Bering Sea, along with some rain as the system comes eastward. And tonight we'll see that frontal boundary pushes into the Alaska Peninsula, so look for rain along with that, and more of a showery leftover condition from the rain you're getting this afternoon there in Kodiak. So this may actually just overrun it. A few scattered showers tonight, and then rain on the increase late tonight and tomorrow as this thing pushes eastward and kind of cuts off up along the coast of Bristol Bay there. Lingering showers, diminishing lingering showers over the Kilbrook Mountains this evening. Thunderstorms diminishing this evening and into tonight, especially after midnight, but pretty good showers continuing up here over the northeast areas and along and just south of the Alaska range, or the Brooks Range, and possibly some thunderstorms even on the eastern North Slope areas there, but low clouds and fog and kind of breezy, east winds 15 to 30 miles an hour just about all along the Arctic coast and even the North Slope areas as well. Showers here possibly moving into the Bristol or the Kotzebue Sound area. High pressure at the surface, pretty weak, but all this moisture will still be in the area there. So showers, mostly cloudy along the North Gulf Coast. Isolated showers over the Copper River Basin areas, and then another trough spreading some moisture into the Panhandle again tonight. But the heaviest showers will be up here to the north and a lot more lighter and scattered conditions, maybe some clearing down toward Dixon Entrance. You can see another area of moisture right through here with this low center. That's going to be rolling right up to the northeast, and tomorrow I'll probably spread some more rain, periods of rain for all of the southeast coast. Again, much like today, right up back toward Yakutat and over to Cordova, and then mostly on the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula areas, and then that'll slide right back into Kodiak Island, linking up with that moisture as that system kind of just falls apart, but still enough moisture left for periods of rain throughout the entire day tomorrow there across all of Kodiak Island. Chance of rain across Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, nothing too particularly heavy, but just drizzle, light rain, fog, and clouds, with that condition right up the southwest coast and in across Norton Sound, especially over the southern areas. Still mild and mostly dry up here to the northwest with those afternoon showers and thunderstorms developing mostly over the central and northeast interior, much like today, right through the upper Yukon Valley back toward the Koyukuk along that frontal boundary. It'll be much the same pattern tomorrow, and again to a lesser extent down here over the Alaska Range and into the Copper River Valley, Copper River Basin or Valley, and then again all the moisture over the Panhandle and dry out over the Bering Sea and Aleutians along with light wind conditions. For today, okay, well, this is actually, that label should be, let's see, Tuesday, that should be Wednesday's map here. Again, much like we saw today, a lot of moisture over the southwest with numerous showers and or rain. In fact, the showers could be so numerous it may seem like some areas it's just a flat-out rain condition. Here's the next system sliding northeast. That'll bring some rain into the Alaska Peninsula Wednesday morning into the afternoon. That'll slide up toward Kodiak. So you'll get a break in the rain that comes back in tomorrow night and early on Wednesday, and then back into the rain as this system pushes in the afternoon, and then that'll become steadier and heavier as this system will push right up to the northeast on Wednesday night and into Thursday, possibly spreading gale force winds with it into the Gulf of Alaska and maybe even all the way up to the North Gulf Coast Wednesday evening, or actually that'd be into Thursday, the way it looks like right now with this pushing northeastward. So a pretty active system here for July, and otherwise the last trough moving through the Panhandle, so showers will be decreasing and diminishing throughout the entire day Wednesday as high pressure builds in, winds becoming more west to northwest, staying light though, only 10 to 15 miles an hour there, but definitely drying out as the last system moves into the area, high pressure right behind it. Again, most of the thunderstorms up over the central and northeast interior, up to the Brooks Range and down into the Alaska Range, and even possibly some thunderstorm activity over the Wrangell Mountains and all the showers out here, but warmest, driest conditions will be up there over the north and northwest interior. And again, the Bering Sea, you do have a low center out there now, but that's going to mostly stay to the west of the Pribilof Islands with high pressure covering the western Aleutians. Temperatures today across the southeast coast range from the mid-50s to the mid-60s, 64 at Juneau and Wrangell, otherwise 58 there at Sitka, 57 in Yakutat, 58 also at Cordova, 58 at Seward, 55 Kodiak, and a 66-degree reading today at Kenai. These are all 4 p.m. temperatures, not the high, 61 in Anchorage. Talkeetna up to 66 degrees. They pick up about a quarter of an inch of rain today, and 67 over there at Gulkana. Kodiak 55, where they had 3/4 of an inch of rainfall in that same time period. But kind of a variation, definitely cooler with the clouds and moisture here over the southwest interior, ranging from 65 at McGrath. Again, that cluster of thunderstorms right about in this area there, more south-southeast of Nikolai and Tanana Valley, mid-60s, but up to the north there and back to the west, you can see Nome at 82 degrees. They had a high today of 84. Nome, Golovin, and Koyuk, 84 degrees were the warmest locations in the state. And Selawik at 81 degrees with Kivalina 77, that northeast downsloping wind keeping it dry and mild there, but same wind pattern, but onshore off the ice there, 37 at Barrow, but up to 55 over at Point Lay. Down to the south and southwest, there's a 48 at Macoriac, 57 Amonic, and a 51 at Cape Newenham. 63 though in King Salmon, mostly in upper 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, lower 50s there for the Pribilof, same thing for Unalaska, all the way down into the high 40s out to the west. For the lows tonight, again 32 to 37 here along the Arctic coast, chilliest on the central areas, but pretty mild here up over the northwest interior, well, and then back down into the upper 40s, lower 50s over the southern Alaska area, mid 50s for the Panhandle. Pretty mild over the interior valleys. Highs tomorrow back into the 70s to near 80. Even some areas could reach into the lower 80s here over the upper Yukon Valley back to the west toward Bettles, with again nice conditions, warm temperatures all the way back out to Kotzebue Sound, Kivalina, and those areas in the Noatak Valley. 40s for the Arctic coast and 60s and near 70, cooling back to the 50s here down over Bristol Bay along the coast, and 50s to lower 60s for the Panhandle. Out in the Aleutians, upper 40s to lower 50s. Flying weather, lots of IFR covering the Bering Sea. Probably not just for tomorrow, but Wednesday as well. And that'll extend to and south of the Aleutians and then start to break out a little bit here, say around Unalaska, Dutch Harbor. So marginal VFR with less IFR for the Alaska Peninsula on up into Bristol Bay and of course across Kodiak Island. And that'll extend all the way across the Gulf of Alaska into the Panhandle. Some marginal VFR along the Alaska Range here, say from Windy Pass down across Denali Park, and possibly there over the Tanana Valley. That'd be mostly in those hills to the north to the White Mountains, and then patch up there on the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, and of course the Arctic coast. Central coast could see some IFR, marginal VFR elsewhere, but that probably losing that marginal VFR, say at Wainwright, and then on down to Point Lay, probably looking VFR. For the passes, Anaktuvuk, good VFR, either approach tomorrow, isolated thunderstorms possible in the afternoon, or actually any time during the day. Adigan, same as Anaktuvuk. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, both passes, either entrance, and also rainy, VFR west and east. With windy though, marginal VFR pretty possible, especially from there back to the southwest. And Isabel though, wide open, VFR, Mintasta VFR, and Tanita VFR. Portage, same forecast, looks good. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. For the freezing levels here, the 10,000 foot stuff up here over the northwest part of the state there, supporting those temperatures in the 80s we saw today. But the cool air down to the south over the southern Bering Sea, and that actually extends all the way into the Panhandle with the upper low right over the Gulf of Alaska there, and pretty lax of a gradient here across southern Alaska with hardly any variation at all. And for icing here with the moisture over the southwest part of the state, mostly of a mixed variety here, more convective, especially up here in the interior areas from the 9,000 to 13,000 foot levels. And this area again is going to stay to the north and northwest, or west-northwest of the Pribilofs out over the central Bering. Alaska Peninsula could see some spotty icing as well as the southeast coast here, kind of hit and miss chances all the way up to say around Yakutat and then the eastern interior as well. For the upper air chart here, you can see that low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska with the 6,000-foot freezing levels there, and then very slight gradient here. Arctic jet coming down only at 30 knots there toward the central and eastern Arctic coast. Pretty light and variable winds with the upper high pressure and the hot temperatures up there over the northwest. Large trough out here over the Bering Sea, now keeping the Pacific jet down to the south here all the way in, then comes up and catches the southern southeast coast. And this low rotating those surges of moisture right into the area. And again, looks like this will finally all move through by Wednesday afternoon or evening. And for 9,000 feet, southeast flow, pretty light over the interior, kicking up to 30 knots here along the southwest coast, and as high as 35 knots across St. Lawrence Island. Pretty light variable winds here from the Gulf of Alaska all the way up to the Arctic coast, only at 5 knots there from the north, and 20 knot southwesterlies along the Panhandle. Westerlies 10 to 15 knots for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Much the same pattern here at 3,000 feet. Pretty light winds, a little brisk here from Nunivak Island out to St. Lawrence Island. And the Arctic coast, easterlies 15 to maybe 20 knots on the east side, but lighter here to the west. Light variable winds over just about all of the interior, and you pick up this southwest flow at about 20 coming into the Panhandle. And turbulence-wise, pretty smooth here from the Gulf of Alaska to the Arctic coast, maybe some moderate stuff below 3,000 feet there. Around St. Lawrence Island, otherwise this pretty insignificant. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Cornfield. On behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to another edition of Hangar Flying. This evening I have Brigadier General Tim O'Brien back with me. We had him on the last show, and he's agreed to come back and talk to us a little bit about the 210th Rescue Squadron. Thanks for joining us again.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
So we talked about some rescues. Well, we didn't start actually in the rescues, but we did talk about helicopter refueling. And there's a picture that's coming up on the screen. This, maybe you can explain that for us.
Absolutely. This is one of our helicopters, HH-60 Pavehawks, over in Afghanistan, actually at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. And one of the things that they're practicing is fast roping. So sometimes you can't always land, and you need to be able to lower somebody in a hurry. You can either do it by hoist, you can put out a rope ladder, or you can put out this fast rope. Think of it as a fireman's pole, so it's a very thick rope, and the PJs, they grab on and just slide to the ground, and then we can quick release the rope, and then we're on our way. So you might do something like this if you have wounded or injured or a crash site on the ground and you can't loiter, what they need to do to stabilize the patient, and then we might come back around and do a hoist extraction on somebody like that. So it's another one of those skills that you've got to practice. You want it to go fast, you want it to go quick, and you want it to go safely.
Oh, well, neat. So I have another picture. This is pretty interesting.
You
this
bet.
is
2006. This is the Cougar Ace, and some people might remember this. This is that car-carrying container ship that was coming over to the U.S. And as you can see, something went wrong, and this is about 200 miles south of Adak. And the ship capsized. There's about 27 people on the side of that structure that you can't really see, but those are two of our HH-60 Pavehawks who flew 12 hours nonstop to get to the ship, and then spent another probably about 40 minutes recovering the people off the ship, and then spent another 2 hours flying north to Adak to land 200 miles north. It took us 2 tankers. It took us 14.1 hours total to accomplish this mission, but nobody else in the state can do something like this. As I mentioned earlier, with helicopter refueling, our range is unlimited based only on crew endurance. And after about 14 hours in the seat, trust me, it's difficult to straighten up afterwards.
I'll bet that's true.
Yeah.
So how deep is the water out there?
You know, I don't know, and I don't want to find out. But it is 200 miles south, and it doesn't look like it, but you're looking at about 20-foot swells there right now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, it almost looks like it's just grounded, but it's obviously
It's not, and it's not. And the big fear was, is this thing going to tip over? Is it going to capsize? Where's it going to stop? Right. And regardless, they need to come off. What else are they going to do?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, here's another picture of a different situation,
Sure.
unfortunately.
Something probably a little bit closer to home. What you have here is, I didn't mention this last time, but you know, we do have a detachment of the 210th Rescue Squadron up at Eielson Air Force Base. So not only do we have a 24-hour alert here in Anchorage, but we know that time is of the essence when a crash happens. So we also have a 12-hour alert up at Eielson Air Force Base. And this was a small plane that obviously had an issue upon landing. And everybody's okay, and the pilot's okay, but our detachment helicopter up there at Eielson launched on this one and was able to quickly find the individual, one, because they were able to get off a Mayday call, but two, because they had a beacon. In this time, there was still 121.5 was available to us, but now obviously you'd want a 406 beacon with GPS on board, because if you really want to be found, please have a 406 beacon.
Right.
But everything's okay. It's just one of those things that Alaska's a tough place to fly, and even sometimes when you're highly experienced, it can still bite you.
So what's your response time, average response time to mobilize for something?
So
like
if our crews are on alert on short response, they're going to be off the ground on average, depending on the situation and depending on the mission planning that has to go into it, I would say probably within 20 minutes to 30 minutes. If it's after hours, then it could be a little bit longer, but I've never seen us take more than an hour to get off the ground.
And you get your direction from RCC, the Rescue Coordination
Rescue
Center.
Coordination Center will be the focal point. They'll gather all the information. They'll ask us, can you? And we'll say, yes, we can. And if it's an appropriate mission, and vet it through the appropriate processes. And then we'll go out and prosecute the mission. It's actually quite a great thing for our pilots and our air crew, because this is about as close to wartime training as you can get. The only thing that's not happening is people aren't shooting at us. But even more so, it's a great thing for the citizens and pilots and airmen of Alaska, because, hey, here's a chance to go out and do what you love, and at least you'll know that somebody and someone out there can help when things go bad.
Well, we don't have much time left, but I wanted to ask you if you had any advice for, we're just starting in the summer season, any tips for pilots about safety-related things that maybe they can bring along to help with rescue or things like that?
Sure. So normally when you crash, dress to egress, because generally speaking, you're not going to take much with you. So I would keep my survival kit, my radio, my beacon, whatever it is that you're going to carry, your sat phone, I'd keep it on my person. The other thing I would do is have a 406 beacon on that aircraft. If you want to be found, and there are plenty of aircraft wreckages up here that we have never found, but if you want to be found, please have a 406 beacon. Now, it's cheap insurance. If you don't have it, well, who knows? You'll be on that, whatever it is that you've landed on, for a long time, perhaps, before somebody comes and finds you.
Right. Well, General, thank you very much for being on the show. It was a pleasure, and I hope you have a great summer, and it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you very much, and let's hope that nobody needs our services.
Okay. And folks, thanks very much for joining us. Fly safe.
Welcome back. Well, light winds from mostly a southerly direction here, up to 15 knots out along the coast, and the inside waters in that 5 to 15 knot range from the south-southeast. And for Tuesday, kind of a switch in direction. Again, last trough moving through, high pressure building up off the coast, so west to northwest, 15, possibly as high as 20 knots down toward the south coast, especially here over the southern panhandle. You can see higher gusts, 20 to 25 knots there in toward Dixon Entrance. And then for the south central areas, Cook Inlet, variable winds tomorrow, all at 10 knots right down across Shelikof Strait. Light variable winds here, Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, maybe east, but just light variable just about everywhere at 5 to 10 knots. And then on Wednesday, picking up a little bit here, higher pressure and more of a gradient. Probably see those easterly winds through the arm, southeast 20 across northern Cook Inlet. Otherwise lighter, 10 to 15 knots, mostly southeast from Kamishak Bay out across the Barren Islands. And variable to southerly, again only 15 knots here for the marine areas around Kodiak Island. And southwest, 10 to 15 for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound. For Bristol Bay, light southeasterlies tomorrow in that area, variable at 10, or calm here in some areas on the peninsula. Southwesterlies up to 20 there up toward Kodiak Island, but extending all the way back down possibly to, well, this entire marine zone here south of Alaska, the Alaska Peninsula. Then on Wednesday, the light variable winds shift into Bristol Bay and then begin to increase, or become northeast and increase possibly as high as 25 knots here in the southern marine area there, southeast to 15, southwest of Kodiak or Sitkinak. And then for the Aleutians, light and variable winds for Adak and Atka, 10 knots, and maybe picking up to 15 out toward Shemya. Light southwest, 10 to 15 knot winds for the Fox Islands, and seas running 2 to 3 feet. Then for the Wednesday outlook, a little more northeasterly here, but still in that 10 to 15 knot range, getting kind of variable right through this area, turning west, Adak and Atka, but again staying light and possible 15 knot winds, and that's about it out towards Shimei and Attu. For the southwest coast, southeast winds there along the entire stretch of the zone, 10 to 15 knots. Easterlies at 20 here for the northern Bering Sea and the St. Matthew Island areas. Otherwise, light winds for the Pribilofs, light winds for St. Lawrence Island. Light winds Wednesday for St. Lawrence Island. Changing directions here, westerlies now at about 15 to southwest 15 along the southwest coast, and light northeasterlies out around St. Matthew Island, south 10 knots for the Pribilofs. For the Arctic coast, briskest winds both tomorrow and on Wednesday will be here on the east side in the 20 to 25 knot range both days. More of an easterly direction, a little lighter for the central coast, and then 20 to maybe 25 knots here on the west side, turning westerly at about 15. Not much change for Wednesday with lighter westerlies here over the Chukchi Sea and into Kotzebue Sound with northeast 20 on the western Arctic coast, lighter along the central areas, and then mostly northeast 20 to as high as 25 knots over toward the Kaktovik to Demarcation Point areas. And then for tonight again, watching this system slide eastward, so rain spreading into Bristol Bay with lingering showers, kind of diminishing rain for Kodiak Island, and then this will all link up and spread some more rain back in tomorrow. Diminishing showers here over the southwest interior. Whether this much clearing takes place, who knows, but moderate showers in areas, but all on the diminishing side here over the interior. Another band, periods of showers or rain for the southeast coast, has a couple of systems yet to move through. This the last one here, and we'll see for the Wednesday chart. Here's the next system that will spread rain and eventually some wind up into the Gulf of Alaska by Wednesday night or Thursday. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.